Hello, hello, everyone, and welcome to the Raising Conscious Kids and Creating Successful Families show here on Jersey Talk Radio, streaming live here from Flemington, New Jersey. And today's guest is from Canada, as my kids call it. We do know now, they are a little older now, but it is Canada. But we do know, that it's called Canada. But when they were younger, they used to say Canada, and we just can't call it anything else now. Sorry, Melissa.
It's okay, I'm not offended.
So I'm just super excited to be here. Raising Conscious Kids and Creating Successful Families is all about empowering you as parents and teachers, and myself. I'm a student. I include myself in the group, and Melissa's a mom, and just all about empowering us with tools, strategies to empower us, to inspire us, and to inform us, because we are raising the next generation of civilization, of human beings, our next leaders, our next teachers, our next president, of all around the globe. So welcome today. We are delighted that you're here. And I just want to jump in today. Melissa Sarrazin is our guest, our featured guest today, and we're in for a real treat. Melissa actually just completed still kind of at the end, and that's why we want to give you free access, so stay tuned on how to get that. But Melissa just hosted a huge video summit on Empower Your Intuition, and I was very fortunate to be one of the invited featured speakers, and so we're just going to talk to you about that today. And intuition is one of my favorite things to talk about, so I'm so delighted that Melissa was able to free up her schedule today, and Bruce, our engineer, was able to come in today to do this show. Thank you, Bruce. And so let's get started. Let me tell you all about Melissa, and let's get started. So Melissa Sarrazin is a multidimensional intuitive healer and energy practitioner. She's an admired personal transformation catalyst and spiritual business mentor. She's a self-published author of How Saying Yes to Depression Leads Us into Healing, a journey back to self and an abundant life. It is her honest and open account of how depression affected her life, how she took responsibility for her part in the challenges that kept showing up, no matter where in the world she was, and woke up to face that which scared her the most. It's Melissa's passion and life purpose to help support women in healing their bodies, resetting their energy blueprints, so that they can step out into the world with confidence, clear guidance, and self-sovereignty. So welcome to the show, Melissa Sarrazin.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you so much to invite me here today. I was really excited to get your call. Like I said, I woke up excited this morning and I had no idea. And oftentimes I find that my body sometimes knows what happens before my brain or the rest of me catches up. And so that was proof of that today when I got your call. So thank you for calling me. I'm very happy to be here.
Good. Yes. So just for the listeners, this was kind of last minute today, but Melissa's she's camera ready. She can just get a call at the last minute. So Melissa, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then of course I want to dig into the summit, but first let's hear a little bit of your background and just whatever you feel guided intuitively to share with our audience today, with our listeners.
Sure, yeah. Where to begin?
Exactly. How much time do we have?
I was originally trained as a chef. So when you talk about intuition, it still makes me giggle. I went to chef school because I had a creative side of me that I really wanted to express. And then I went out into the real world of chefing and cooking and working in restaurants, and I discovered that it was a boys' club. It was rough and tough. It was high stress. It was high competition, and it was a lot of pressure that I don't think that I was expecting. The great thing about it was that I got to travel around the world. I lived in several different countries, and so I got to really immerse myself in different cultures. And that is one of the best educations I believe that I've had in my lifetime was that opportunity to go and live abroad, to work in restaurants with local people and to make friends with them and to hang out with them,
Mm.
and to really learn about the world from an experience rather than reading something in a book.
Mm.
Um, and then I discovered that as I was traveling, you take yourself everywhere you go. Sometimes you
Yes.
think that if I'm in a different place, or if I was with a different person, or if something specific was different about my life, you feel that everything will kind of fall into place.
Magically, right?
Magically, of course.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, when I left home, you said I'm from Canada. I'm going to say that now. And I decided to go to England because, they speak English.
Yes.
Well, lo and behold, I find my first job when I'm there, and I'm around the table with an Irish English, no, not an Italian English woman who was married to a Danish man. Their sons were born in England, so they had English accents. Then there was a girl from France, a guy from Spain. There was an Australian and a New Zealander and a German girl, and I'm probably forgetting something, but we all used to sit around the table and speak English, and for the first 2 weeks, I had no idea what anybody was saying.
Then they were speaking English?
Everybody was speaking English, yeah, but I had never, up until that point, we didn't have the same TV that our kids have now. I hadn't really heard an Australian accent except from, the Crocodile Dundee movies. That was the only thing that I could relate to that. So, it was very interesting time. And, being in that situation, I think really helped me to hone my intuition, which we'll talk about more. But the reason why I brought that up is because I said, you take yourself with you.
Mm-hmm.
And so you read the title of my book, How Saying Yes to Depression Leads Us into Healing. Well, I took my depressive self on the road with me, and I didn't really know that I was depressed. I just thought, I didn't have enough adventure in my life. Life was kind of boring. It was mundane, and everything that everybody else was doing, I wasn't interested in. And so I thought through traveling, I could live through these dreams, my daydreams that I had when I was a child. I would read books about other countries and imagine going there. And I was lucky enough to travel as a child. With my family, so I had the travel bug, and I thought that would cure whatever boredom or I was feeling inside. And it wasn't until actually my husband and I were living in Australia on an organic farm, and we were cooking the food that we were growing, which we had never had an opportunity before to do. And I fell into a really deep, dark depression. I stayed in bed for 2 months. I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I just wanted to step off of the world. Somebody used to say that to me. It's like, stop the world. I want to get off.
Yeah, that was a show, actually.
Pardon?
That was a show. That was a play.
Okay, so that's where it comes from. So that's how I felt at that time. However, my husband would come in and say, okay, we had to go have dinner or whatever, and I talked him into, for a while, to bring the food to me so I didn't have to leave my room. But then he realized, it was probably 3 days had passed and I haven't left the room.
Wow.
And then he was like, okay, what's going on here? Because this isn't quite like you. You've never done this before. And when he asked me what was wrong, I couldn't answer him. I didn't know. I had no idea why. I just wanted to turn myself off. And so that brought me into a completely different journey rather than the traveling journey. And it actually took me on an inward journey. And that's when everything in my life changed, and I started to walk this new path that I have found myself on today.
Yeah, because there's nothing about chef in your bio now.
No, I just cook at home for 2 little girls, and on occasion I'll be sparked with creativity and I'll cook something fun, but my husband is still in that field, and he takes care of that.
Nice. So tell us about, I just want to jump right into the to the video summit that you just finished, because it was so impactful for me. And so I just want to jump into that. What inspired you to do that? And tell us more about it.
That's so funny. I've been wanting to do a summit for a long time, and you and I both know how much work it is to put one of those together.
Yeah.
And so I was in a group of people, and everybody's doing a summit, and so I was told choose a topic. I was like, okay, what do I really want to learn about, or what do I want to learn more about? And years ago, when I was working with a friend, I thought of, we were trying to think of an email for a group of workshops that we were putting together. And I came up with Empower Your Intuition. And as I was thinking, I remembered how excited I got when I had that thought. You know, sometimes when you just get that inspiration and all of a sudden it's like everything opens up and you're like, oh my God, yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah, yeah.
I had no idea what it was actually perfect for until I decided to do this summit. And as I was meditating, I just heard Empower Your Intuition, and I'm like, yeah, that's it, exactly. Because we all know that we are intuitive. However, how many of us actually get the chance to interview and talk to people who have studied it or who practice that in their daily life? And so that's how it came about.
People you interviewed.
I gathered together 21 different experts
That's a lot
from
of people.
all walks of business and life, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been so amazing. And at some point, we'll put up the website, and so where people can opt in. It's free, right?
It's all free, 100%.
And it is up until this Sunday. So get there quickly.
Well, actually, do you know what? I'm going to leave it up until the end of the month, because I've actually been receiving emails today from other people who have been a part of the summit since it began, asking me if I would leave them up later.
Oh, good.
And so, you know, that you'll find me in a lot of the videos saying, you really need to go back and watch and listen to this again. Because whenever we do repeat things, we hear things and we feel them differently. And so then we internalize and integrate them differently. So I thought that, okay, I said it, so I'm going to have to leave it up long enough to have that available for people who want to do that.
Oh, great. So that'll be up through the end of April then?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. That's very generous. Excellent. Excellent. Is the URL up there? Okay, great. So tell me, Melissa, what is your definition of intuition?
My definition of intuition is, it's really about, for me, finding your inner compass. And I guess that goes back to me traveling and really being a wanderer. If you're wanting to go in a certain direction, you know, you look at your compass, and your compass will tell you which way to go. And so whenever I really want to tap into my intuition, my inner guidance, my inner knowing, I call it all of these things. It's that voice that is connected to something bigger than I am. And when I connect to something that's bigger than me, I don't have to think about what needs to happen or think about which direction I should go in. My intuition tells me in various ways. I can hear an answer. I might see a symbol. That's why I brought up the compass. Some people are visual. And sometimes it's just a feeling, you know. That and for me, that's intuition. It's yourself, but it's yourself that's connected to that sense of something bigger that we all have, that's really here to support and guide us on our life's journey.
Nice. So my definition is the still small voice. And so for me, I call that God, or broader perspective. But for me, it just all boils down, because you know, it's been such a joy to be part of this event with you, because, like I said, intuition is one of my favorite topics, and it's actually the one that drew me into personal development, you know, close to 20 years ago now. So it's really, you know, just being in this energy and getting the videos, you know, we're sending out 2 videos every day, And then each speaker is giving out a free gift. I mean, it's just like loaded with awesomeness, you know? So yeah, to me, it really boils down to that still small voice. And for me, it is, if I'm hearing something that's like a criticism of myself, I know that's not my higher self. I know that's not my intuition per se. Like if it's critical or something like that. But two things happened this week that I was excited to share with you. And so intuition I use in my personal life, I use in my business life, I use with my clients. You know, it's just part of who I am now. But each of us is a work in progress. And so yesterday, I thought of you yesterday. I was on my way to my son's baseball game. And I had left with just enough time to get there, no problem. And something told me, I just got a little inkling, like, oh, stop and get that chai tea that you want. And I thought, oh, no, like it just came in, you know, it just kind of wafted in. And I thought, oh, no, if I do that, I'll be late. And I thought, but why did I even get that sense to do that, right? So I get there, and lo and behold, I could have stopped and, you know, circumstances as they unfolded, I could have really stopped to get it. And I didn't. And, you know, that's not a huge thing. It didn't cost me $1 million or anything. And some, you know, some of the stories on the summit did cost people, you know, a substantial amount of money by not following their intuition. And then the other thing that came up this week, and so that's the kind of thing that's just like, oh, you know, we're all in a journey, and, you know, you kind of smile about it. And okay, and, you know, I did get the hit. I heard it, and I just, you know, said, oh, no, you know, I don't want to be late. And then I went later, you know, because I had the chance. And then the other thing that happened, so this is really interesting. I went to Villanova for my MBA. And, you know, Villanova's always had a really good basketball team, like always known for the basketball team. The head coach would walk around campus like a superstar, right? It just, you know, everybody knew him. Like I didn't really, like I knew who he was after I was like, is this a celebrity? Who is this? And then somebody said, oh no, that's the coach of the basketball team. So I was like, okay, cool. Well, with this round of March Madness and basketball, I knew Villanova was going to win. Villanova took it all. They won it on Monday night, and I was like, oh my God, I knew, like something in my bones knew that they were going to win. And I tweeted the other day, I said, when I tweet, it's kind of like a fun thing. I just play with my intuition all the time, and that's a good way to develop it, right? Mm-hmm. And so I'm tweeting, and I said, you know, I was like supporting them or something. And I said, what would be, because I love to make up hashtags sometimes. And I thought, what would be a hashtag that would be poignant for this? And I got play to the buzzer. And wouldn't you know that it was after the buzzer went off that he took the final shot. Well, he took the final shot, the buzzer, yeah. Then the buzzer, and then he made it, and they won the whole NCAA championship. And wow. I was like, oh my God, I knew they were going to win. And just something fun like that. And so when my son got home from baseball that night, I said, Villanova won. I said, you know how this year is like the first year I've really been talking about it and tweeting about it and sharing with people about it. And I said, I knew they were going to win, and they did it at the buzzer. And so my son, who's 14, he's a hoot. He goes, did you bet on it? Yeah. We don't bet in our house. Like, where does this come from? And I said, you know, that's so funny. I wouldn't have thought about it. I mean, I did see people with their brackets and all that online saying, oh, you know, I just lost, but I'm happy that Villanova's still in it. But it never occurred to me. But I thought, I wonder what the odds would have been. Like me way at the very beginning, betting Villanova to win it all. Pooh, you know, I don't even know how it works or how you would bet that. But it's so funny. I said, my brain doesn't work that way. But, honey, next time I have something like this, remind me. But it's so fun.
That goes back to what I said at the beginning this morning. When I woke up, I was excited. And I was like, I don't know where this is coming from. I just have a normal day. I knew what I had to do. And yet, you know, this opportunity got put onto my lap. So that's why when you ask me for my definition for intuition, I say it's something bigger than myself, because our mind is really made to protect us. It's full of fear, doubt, and worry. And if we don't learn to check our minds, that's kind of the place where we can get stuck living a lot of the times, especially when we're experiencing high stress in our life.
Yeah.
But being able to tap into that intuition, it takes us past our mind. It takes us down into our heart. It takes us down into our gut. It takes us into the different parts of our body that have their own intelligence. They have their own way of taking care of us and of communicating with us. And it's our intuition that it's the bridge where we get to tap into that. If we only live from our head, life is stressful. It gets tiring very easily. We burn ourselves out, and we'll tell ourselves the same stories. And I mean, you and I, and anybody who's been in personal development for any amount of time will know that our thoughts are energy. And so living from an intuitive space, it really helps us to become more magnetic to experiencing these miracles. I mean, like you said, you could have stopped and had some tea, but your mind was telling you, no, you're going to be late. But there's a part of you that knew there's going to be time for you to do that.
It's so amazing.
That's what happens. And there's many stories from the experts on the summit who will talk about things like that. I'm thinking of one from Simone, when she was saying that she wanted to pick some flowers at the end of her driveway to take to her friend on her birthday, and when she got there it had rained and they were done. She was like, oh, okay, well, I'm gonna have to do something else. And she got this picture of a sunflower, and so as she was driving to meet her friend, she was guided to stop at this place she hadn't stopped at for a really long time, and lo and behold, there the sunflowers were there.
And that's the other thing too, it comes around, like you said, like she got the first hit, like pick the flowers, didn't pick the flowers, there's always a next. And I think that's so uplifting, because sometimes we can think there's only one answer, but the universe is so forgiving, like it's going to come around again. It's going to come around faster than you think. Wouldn't you agree, Melissa?
Absolutely. I mean, I believe that there are so many possibilities with anything that we ask for, and it's only the limitations of our mind that keep us separate from those things. I've been asking for a while to be introduced to more females in my area. I work at home, so I don't always get out a lot. And in the last few months, there is a Her Wellness place that has opened up in our town, where I can now go and teach, and there is a community of women who are now attached to this place.
Nice.
And following, the intuitive hits that you get, I was in the sauna at the gym, and a woman came in that I had never noticed before, and she was older than me, and you just get talking sometimes, and I'm not one who always finds it easy to engage in small talk. There are occasions when it comes easy, and other occasions when I kind of avoid it. And this time I kept getting this hit to ask her what she does. So I heard it once, and I was like, okay, she was talking. And then I said something back, and she started talking to me. And then I heard, ask what she does. And I was like, okay. And then I heard it a third time, and I went, okay, what is it that you do? And then all of a sudden we found that we had so many things in common. We both teach Reiki, and we both had similar journeys, and we are both writers, and there was all these things that came up that if I hadn't have asked that one question that I was being guided, we probably never would have gotten around to building that kind of a connection that quickly.
Nice. And the other thing is that when you heard that, it didn't say, ask her, you dummy.
Yes, no, it didn't.
Intuition never does that.
Being pushed in the back there. Come on, listen.
No,
but
that's how we know ego from intuition.
Absolutely. Yeah, it just made me smile, because I just kept hearing the same thing. Ask her what she does.
Oh, nice. So for everyone, to get your free pass, all access, it's you can go to tinyurl.com/RCK Intuition. That's RCK for Raising Conscious Kids, Intuition, INTUITION. So yes, get your pass. Now, one of the things, Melissa, because I've listened to maybe not all of the interviews, but most of them, and one of the things that comes up time and time again that is kind of sad, I have to say, is that most of the stories, now mine isn't this, mine was not this story, but most of the other stories were, I had this, kind of knowing when I was young, and I used to have these experiences when I was young, and, I had this sense about me or whatever, and then X happened, and then it got turned off for X number of years, and then this happened and later in life, and then it kind of started up again. And so since you really you hosted the whole thing, what is your sense about that? And as parents, anybody who's watching this is interested in raising conscious kids and creating successful families. So we would like to take everything that we've gone through, like our generation has gone through, and really kind of just leapfrog that so that our kids don't have to say, oh yeah, I used to be talented in this when I was young, and then my parents beat it out of me. No, not that we beat it out of them, but you know what I'm saying, just to really give parents tools, if that makes sense, so that we can empower our kids' intuition as well as our own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really great question. And, as a parent, it doesn't come in the handbook, so we don't know what to do. If our kid says this to us, we don't necessarily have a response.
Yeah.
And, a lot of the times, especially when it comes to intuition or anything maybe spiritual, we have certain boxes for everything that we've been taught is right or wrong. And so intuition is a lot to do with creativity. And I think creativity it doesn't get taken away from us. Our attention from our creativity is directed when we go to school and when we go out into the community. Because intuition is not really, it's a feeling sense, and it's not able to be seen. Mm-hmm. And, as human beings, we learn from contrast. So to know something is really, to forget something is the contrast that we as our generation, I believe, needed in order to be able to come back to that sense as an adult when we were actually able to make choices that were the best choices for us, which without having so much outside influence from our parents and our teachers and other authority figures that were in our lives. Now, these kids who are coming in, they're wired differently. At least my two are.
Of course. Yeah, that's why I'm doing this show. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, they are wired differently.
Yeah.
And the things that our parents use on us don't necessarily work for them. So it's important for us to be in touch with our creativity and be in touch with our intuition as a tool so that we can become conscious parents, and we can become the kind of parents we would have wanted when we were kids. Not that our parents did a bad job, it's just they didn't have any other resources. I mean, they didn't have the internet. If they wanted to learn something, they either had to go to school or the library. They had to physically leave their house. I mean, if we want an answer to anything, we just pick up a smartphone, dial it in, and the answer is right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we live in a completely different world than our parents did, and things are quicker. And so our intuition really needs to be activated. So the level of contrast that we experienced growing up was there so that we could come all the way back and swing that pendulum back, I believe, so that we could then be who we are in a way that is different, and then in a way that we would have liked to have had access to when we were younger.
And not this, if you're watching this show, this doesn't apply to you, but there are many parents who really have a really hard time with their kids because they're trying to use the same paradigms that our parents used on us, and they don't work. The kids are, like you said, they're wired differently. They're just coming in differently. I remember when my daughter was born, it was the beginning of my personal growth journey. And I said, wow, for all the work I've done on myself, she's coming in like even at the next level. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have challenges. My older daughter is very intense, and I'm not an intense person. I like to have things quiet and to move along a
Mm.
certain kind of wave. And
Mm.
she's like really, really fast, and she always has been since she was the day she was born.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and when I'm tired, there are times when I do fall back on what I've learned from my parents and do things that I don't feel proud of.
Mm-hmm.
However, the difference I think is that I use my consciousness to say, okay, what exactly happened there?
Mm-hmm.
And then what I do is I go back to my daughter and I talk to her
Yeah.
about that and I tell her what my experience was.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say, look, when we were in this kerfuffle,
Mm-hmm.
this is how I was feeling, and this is you were pushing me, and the more that you pushed me, when I'm up against the wall, I'm going to push out just like you do to me.
Mm-hmm.
If there's something that I do that does that to you.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't I will admit when I'm wrong, when I've done something that I am not happy about,
Mm-hmm.
and then I will talk to her, and together we will formulate a plan for a time if that happens again.
Mm-hmm.
So if things are getting escalated, I
Mm-hmm.
can say, okay, this is getting escalated. What did we say we were going to do
Mm-hmm.
when this happen next time, so that we can change the pattern and it doesn't have to be the same all the time. You can actually grow with your children and your children can grow and you can teach them how to communicate in different ways.
Nice, nice. So again, just everyone, if you haven't signed up yet, it's tinyurl.com/RCK intuition, because you're just getting a little glimpse. There are 21 speakers and just amazing tips for yourself, for your family, for your business. Just I'm just in awe of the cast that you've put together, and just honored to be a part of it.
Mm. Yeah, I'm amazed. I mean, I have women who were at the start of publishing information about intuition. The one woman, Marcia Emery, she's in her 80s, and when she started to teach, she was asked to teach intuition to business people. She didn't have a book to go to tell her how to teach it. She had to really discover what that meant, and through trial and error, she came up with the different ways that we communicate through intuition and how that can help you in job interviews, in relationships that you have in business, and all that kind of thing. There's, like you said, there's so much. There's stuff based in science that's mixed with spirituality, and how that is working to help people come to use their full potential. When they're making a change in their business, they have certain skills that are useful, but then sometimes those skills can actually hold us back as well. And so this woman is using the way that they use their intuition to help people to build the kind of businesses that they want to within the structures that are already existing.
Nice. Yeah, there were all kinds of cool stories. And the other thing I love about this summit is that the interviews are 20 minutes long. So they're snack size, they're snackable.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I love it.
I did that on purpose. And the reason why I did is because there's a lot of information out there.
Mm-hmm.
And, I believe that we only retain so much of what we hear.
Mm-hmm.
And, parts of this interview people are going to retain, and other parts they aren't. It doesn't matter how long they are. But I did that so that people could go in, get something, try it on. Hopefully that's the intention, is that they try it on and see how it works for them, and then maybe they adopt a new habit in their life. Maybe it's something that serves them in a way that they've been asking for. And that's what I really hope that people take from that 20 minutes.
Yeah, one of the things that I loved is the process that let's see, it was the process, oh, I can't remember her name. she took you through, and it was identifying it. Was it an emotion or a thought pattern? And she took you through this whole process of, identifying it and then helping it move through. Do you remember who that was?
Well, there was
There
a
were a
couple that
couple.
were kind of
Yeah.
similar at that. There
Yeah.
was one, Jan Delstra.
I think it was
She took
she. Yeah.
me. She took me through a process so that I could face my fear.
Yes,
You
that
know,
one. Yes.
yeah, that was Jen. She just had me close my eyes and said, "Okay, so see your fear, give it a picture. Don't not to run away from it, but to really face it and to look at it and to see what it looks like, and know that when you do that, things will shift and change, and all of a sudden they will look different, and you can learn from it. We've been taught through society that some emotions are good and some are bad,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
fear is definitely one of those. And yet, no matter where you are in your life, no matter what it is that you're doing, there will always be a time when you are called to change and to step up or to up level yourself in your life and to do something different than you normally do.
Mm-hmm.
And anytime, I don't care who you are, anytime you are asked to do something differently or something that you've never done before, fear will surface.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really important for us to learn how to manage our own fear in whatever way works for you. And Jan was saying, just turn and look at it.
Mm-hmm.
Give it some life
Mm-hmm.
so that it's not just this feeling that's in your body. Give it a picture. Talk about it and talk to it, to communicate
Yeah.
to your emotion in that way so that it doesn't have control over you. And it's not that you have control over it, but that you're communicating with it and you end up working together
Mm-hmm.
rather than fighting each other.
And just for the listeners, it's Jan. How do you spell her last name again?
Deelstra.
And one of the great things, everybody, that Melissa does is she gives you on the experts page, she gives you a synopsis of each interview and then what time specific like hot things are going on. So like she's going to give you the exact time that this process is going on with Jan Dilstra. The thing I loved about that, Melissa, and I've really integrated that into my life, and I've added it to my toolbox,
Yay,
Yeah.
success.
No, oh yeah, because that's what we want to. My thing is, if you could take one thing out of any workshop that I give, or interview that you do, or this interview that we're doing, if you could take one thing and implement it within the next 24 hours, that's success. That's huge success. So for me, that process, and so I encourage everyone to go listen to that. Jan Dilstra at tinyurl.com/RCK Intuition is, for me, it was very specific. You could tell she's done it 1,000 times with people. And the thing for me, it was naming. So she took you through it, but then we were all kind of going through it to get, also. And it was taking it and making it, not befriending it necessarily, but integrating it back into the whole. And for me, that's so powerful, because instead of like shunning it and making it wrong and putting up resistance against it, we're acknowledging it so that it just wants to be acknowledged. It just wants to be integrated back into the whole so that we can just move on as a more complete human being. What do you think about that, Melissa?
I love the way that you say that. I mean, yeah, there are parts of ourselves that we have been told are not good or are not worthy or whatever. They've all been labeled. But if we really sit with ourselves and we are able to be totally accepting of whatever is here, it doesn't matter what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And then if we actually then choose to take some action to work with whatever is here, then yeah, we bring that back into ourselves, and it's like we're collecting little pieces of our personal power.
Yeah.
Because once you do one thing, you know that you can do it. And it gives you a greater sense of confidence that you wouldn't have had before you tried. And so those are beautiful gifts that you can give yourself when you're feeling uncomfortable in your body. That's a pretty strong indication that something is trying to get your attention.
Yeah.
And, your body will try to get your attention in various ways. Strong emotions are sometimes maybe the last resort that your body has to get your attention before it turns into something else.
Yeah. Do you have a cat?
I do. Did you hear her?
Oh, well, is it a girl?
It is,
Yeah, that was my intuition. So she was really highlighting that point. She really was. Yeah, I believe that. That when the animals come in, I have one cat that when I'm doing any energy work of any sort, Persis is right there, right next to me. Like I could think she's outside, and all of a sudden she's right on me. So she was highlighting that. I love that. Oh, awesome. So what are some of the things that you've taken away, Melissa, from the summit?
Wow.
Putting you on the spot. Not that everything wasn't great, but there are just some things that I just implemented right away that have been so awesome.
Yeah, I think for me, having all of those conversations just really validated all the different experiences that I have. There's different ways that we could receive information. So we could be clairaudient, which is hearing, clairvoyant, which is seeing, clairsentient, which is feeling, and clair something, which means we just have this knowing of thank you, claircognizance. And through listening to all of these different experts, I realized that I actually do receive information in all sorts of different ways. It makes me think of Melanie Barnum. When I found her, she had written this book on symbols and intuition and how our intuition speaks to us through symbols. And I see symbols all the time. I never get what they mean. I thought, oh my God, what fun would it be to interview her? Oh. And the way that magic happens, the night before I was to interview her, I had this dream. And in this dream, I saw this same purse. I had a purse on my shoulder, and actually, it was on my left shoulder, so it's my feminine side, and it was red and yellow. Ooh. And I would be in a crowd of people, and I kept having these women saying, that purse is so beautiful, where did you get it? And every time I was asked, I said, I got it in France. Oh. And my husband is French. He was born in France, and so we were just there last summer. And I thought, that's funny. And I don't always remember my dreams, but that morning I woke up and I told my husband, I said, I had this thing happen 3 times last night. And so as we're talking, I remembered that's what I had my dream was. And so in the interview, she helps me figure out what that symbol was.
Oh, cool.
I thought, wow, look at that. That is absolutely amazing. And another interview, I believe, I remember her name. Okay. Someone, I'll remember as I talk about it, I'm sure. I was feeling worried about something. There had been a lot of stuff that had come up that day before I was set to do this interview. And I didn't quite know how I was going to get through it because I had all these directions pulling me everywhere. And it just so happened that she did a process with me that walked me through my worry and completely just turned around how I was feeling. And so there's a lot of things that happen in these interviews that really showed me that, the world has my back.
Yes.
If I would only let it in.
Yeah. Amen, sister. Yeah.
That's, a big piece of what I'm taking away.
I love that. The world has your back. If we would just let it.
Yeah, just let it in.
Let it have our backs.
Let it support you in ways that, you can't imagine. Because when you open to it, there's so many possibilities that happen. It's just, I'm in awe, like most days. Things will happen and I'll be like, I was just thinking about that 2 minutes ago, or, I just talked about that. Even last weekend, I did a workshop here in town, and my best friend and I were talking the week before, and we said, oh my God, we'd really love to spend time with these 2 other women, in a place where there's not a lot of noise, because we always would see them at music events. And lo and behold, that weekend, the four of us were sitting in a circle together. I mean, it
Nice.
just happens all the time. You're just like, wow, life, it can be playful.
Yes. Well, the amazing thing, so we recorded what, like maybe a month ago or something like that. So I've really been my attention and, where our attention goes, things grow, right? So my intention has been on intuition and stuff. And so what I'm finding is like I'll say to my husband, like what was it? I had watched a comedy show over the weekend, and I said, "Oh, I'd like to watch that new movie with Amy Schumer." I had never seen her, but my husband thinks she's funny, so I watched the comedy show, and I was like, "Oh, she's funny, isn't she in a new movie?" And we looked, and it was like $14.99 to buy, and we're like, no, pass." And so I just happened to look what's on HBO. The brand new movie that night was that exact movie that I wasn't going to pay $14.99 for. So like those things
Exactly.
happen so often. And so my running joke with my husband, he'll say, "I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of you." Because things like that happen so often. But even like I'm a little bit scaring myself lately because just I feel like when you put your focus on it, when you put your attention on it, things just speed up so quickly. And so, I just want to thank you because anything that's going to support, my intuition, our intuition, is just here to support us, here to serve us, here to bring more joy, more love, more ease and flow into our lives. So, I just want to thank you for that as well because, we never know, the ripple effects that we have. Like so many times, just last week, I was having a conversation with someone after a game, and she said to me, "I always remember what you said to me," and I am like, "Oh no!" Like I never know what's going to come after that sentence. And it happens to me so much. Well, I'm coach at large. That's what my husband calls me. But she said, and then she went on to say this thing that really helped her make a decision in her life. Now, this is just, a friend of mine, like an acquaintance of mine that I don't see that often, but you don't know the ripple effect that you're having. So, this invitation went out to probably 100,000 or more people. And so all the people that are watching and those families, those businesses, those lives that'll be affected. So just letting you sit in the knowingness of that and in the gratitude of that because I put on the Raising Conscious Kids Telesummit. It was really fun, but it was a ton of work and there's expenses and everything. And so it's not you don't get a whole lot of time to just sit around and bask in the sunshine of the awesomeness that you've just created. So I just want to give you 30 seconds now to sit and bask, Melissa.
Thank you. Thank you. That, um, that's funny. That's a very, feminine thing. You birth something and then immediately you want to move on to the next thing or you're still caretaking it in a way and there's no real pause.
Yeah.
And so in a lot of those interviews, another common thread I found a lot of the experts and I were talking about was the ability to slow down and to remember to pause at things. And I think I might have learned that when I was traveling because there I was in front of the pyramids in Egypt and I was just like, wow, I've seen this on TV, I've read about it in books, and here I am. Let me just pause for a moment and just really let that sink into my body. Whew. I did the same when I went to Venice and I got to see the canals because we had this picture that was on our walls of a guy in a gondola, with the buildings. And I stood on one of the bridges and I looked and it was like that view that was in the painting. And I was just like, I gotta stop here for a minute.
Yeah.
So I took some time on Monday morning. I wanted to take all of Monday, but it didn't happen. But I did take some time on Monday to kind of let it sink in. And then this conversation is also helping that as well, because I haven't really talked to a whole bunch of people yet that have watched the videos. And so this is helping me pause and
Yeah.
really take
Reflect.
that in as well. So thank you. I appreciate
Yes.
very much that you said that.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah. No, it is. As far as self care and stuff, like, did you schedule a massage? What did you do? Get a facial? What's your thing? What's your go to? What's your go to thing for yourself?
I, I'm definitely going to get a massage. I
Mm-hmm.
haven't booked it yet.
Mm-hmm.
But my go-to thing really is to go to the YMCA here where I go and have a workout and to go in the steam room afterwards.
Nice.
That is like one of my favorite things to give to myself.
Mm,
And so sometimes I will, well, most of the time I go and work out and then steam, but sometimes when I just want to take care of myself, I'll go and swim in the pool. They have a 90-degree pool there and they have
nice.
jets, and you can just
Nice.
relax in the nice warm water and then go in,
Oh,
take a cold shower and hop in the sauna. And that's
nice.
one of the things that I love to do for myself.
Good. That's important, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, if you're not going to take care of yourself, who is?
Yes, it's up to us. It's up to us. So we have about, like about 5 minutes left. So I want to get back to talking about kids and families, and just to leave with a couple ideas, because you're fresh off the whole series, and it is still available for people to go and register for. It's free, all access pass, and go to tinyurl.com/RCK Intuition and grab your pass and you can download all the interviews. Everybody gives a gift. Everybody gives a gift. So there you go. 21 interviews, 21 gifts. I mean,
Yes.
pretty awesome. But I want to get back to this idea about what we can do for our kids in this generation, because my sense is, with my own kids, my main thing is for them to feel empowered in their own skin, in their own judgment, which of course we have to guide that a bit, but really I always say to them, if it feels wrong, if it feels wrong in your gut, if it feels uneasy, if something doesn't feel quite right, like, my daughter's at college now. And so we've had many, many conversations. You can't wait till 5 minutes before she's leaving to have, all these conversations. It's an
Right.
ongoing thing. So, I'll always say, if you're parking somewhere and something feels off, keep on going. If you're going to get into an elevator and something feels off, stop and wait for the next one, because I've done the research. We've all seen the things that when there are awful atrocities that are committed, it's usually, unfortunately, against women. Not always, but against women. But they had a sense that, I had a sense that I shouldn't have gotten into that elevator, but I didn't want
Sure.
to make him feel bad or whatever. Like, that drives me crazy. So you can tell I've raised my daughter to be very strong, very empowered, and feeling like she could kick anybody's ass if she wanted to.
Yay!
She's
That's the way you
six
do
feet. She's strong, and my son's 6'1". The boys are different. Boys are hysterical, but but both of them, like, just to use their own intuition, just to, even if we don't call it that, because from what I've seen, like, so you could do all this at home and have all these intentions, and being a conscious parent, and we're all learning. We're not enlightened masters yet. Well, most of us aren't yet. And so we're doing all these things, and then they go to school, and it's almost like kind of schooled out of them a little bit. Like, listen to this. This is the authority, and you're going to get detention or whatever, blah, blah, blah. Now, in high school, it's better, but especially in the younger grades, it's kind of all about control to a certain extent. Kind of makes me a little crazy, as you could tell. So what are your thoughts
I
on
agree
that?
with you.
What are your thoughts on that? How can we help our kids?
Well, I talked a little bit about keeping communication open.
Mm-hmm.
If they see that you are not perfect, or, kids have a BS detector just like adults do.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are telling these little white lies to your children, then they're going to pick up on it.
Mm-hmm.
once they reach a certain age. And, sometimes they know when they're really young.
Oh yeah, they know.
Um,
Yeah, they
so,
were born
it's
knowing.
it's about speaking the truth to them.
Mhm.
Not talking down to them, talking at their language level, but
Mhm.
not talking down to them. And, to invite conversation. Sometimes it's hard because they don't really know either. I mean, I'm very empathic, so I can
Yeah.
feel what my daughter's feeling. So
Yeah,
I
me
can kind of
too.
pick up on something if
Yeah.
something's there, and that's what I use with my children.
Mhm.
But you said something as you were saying with your daughter, if you have a bad feeling, honor it. You're giving her permission to trust herself.
Mhm.
And that right there is huge.
Mhm.
I could see that helping her in peer pressure moments,
Mhm.
or, moments, where she just doesn't want to do something.
Mhm.
She'll give herself permission to listen and trust herself and follow that.
Mhm.
So anywhere where we can give our children permission to do that
Mhm.
is something that's going to set them on the right path. It's definitely going to empower them, because a lot of the times, if we're not used to doing that, that's what carries over into adulthood, and then that's what happens to a lot of women, especially, where we're caring for everybody else, and we forget about ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so, it's also to modeling that self-care for your children as
Mhm.
well. When
Mhm.
you say, no, this is time for mommy, if you want something, you go ask your father, or you wait until I'm finished.
Mhm.
And, teaching them about boundaries as
Mhm.
well.
Mhm.
Boundaries are very important, and they're talked about, but they're only talked about in specific circumstances, right? With touching inappropriately,
Right.
or things like that.
Yeah.
And so, really, I feel it's my one of my jobs as a parent is to teach my girls how to create their own boundaries, and
Mm.
how to teach them how to communicate that, how to use their words
Yeah.
and say, this, it makes me feel uncomfortable. This is why it makes me feel uncomfortable. But then come back around again and say, this would work better.
Hmm. That's
And
nice.
just teaching them to think in that way and to communicate in that way. There's not so much confrontation that has to happen in order for them to get what they want.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome, Melissa. The one last thing that I wanted to just kind of end with is, with intuition, especially because it's not so much like honored, or you don't get a grade in intuition at school.
Right.
There's not an
Mm-hmm.
intuition class. But when it's, if you set your intention on it, you will see times throughout the week that you can recognize your child and say, oh, that was really, you had a feeling about that, and look, you were right. Or just even something like, taking an umbrella when it's a sunny sky or whatever, you
Mm-hmm.
know, uh, oh, look, your intuition was spot on. Like, you just have a knowing. Just, celebrating. That's a great thing to celebrate, because then we're acknowledging that, and where your focus goes, your energy flows. So, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's what I'd say.
Validation is huge. I mean, that's what gives them confidence, and remembering to listen to themselves, for sure.
Yeah. So, what would be your last word? We have like a minute left, Melissa. What would be your last word for folks on just an invitation, or any closing thoughts that you have?
Yeah, there is really so much that is available to you there in that summit. There's something for everybody. And, when you live from your intuition, there is a richness to life that doesn't exist when you are stuck all in your head. And
Hmm.
I've been there. I've been stuck, stuck,
Me
stuck, so much
too.
so that I stayed in bed for 2 months.
Yeah.
And so, the information that's there, it's available. It is all completely 100% free.
Hmm.
And, if you feel called, know that that's your intuition, and that there is something there for you. Follow. You don't have to watch all 21 interviews. You
Yeah.
can go through the lists. I have everyone on one page. You
Hmm.
can go through that page, reread through the highlights, and watch the ones that you're most attracted to, because those are the ones that will have the information that you need right now.
Hmm. Well said. And those are great last words. And I just want to thank everyone for joining us today. I want to thank Melissa. I want to thank Bruce. And thank you for being part of this co-creation, for your intention to raise conscious kids and create successful families, successful schools, communities, and world. So I just want to appreciate and acknowledge your role and your intention in this creation. And once again, to get your all access pass, it's tinyurl.com/RCK Intuition, and you'll get all the goodies there. And I didn't get my website today. It's raisingconsciouskids.com. We also have a free community, and feel free to reach out and join us. And thank you so much, everybody. Thank you. Have a great week.
Thank you.